Great to see you. Sunday was bottom 5 day of my life. Also on that list are both of my slow news day appearances, but we don't have to get into that right now. What the hell happened? Yep. What happened on Sunday?
Well, we spent the last 2 years thinking that Patrick Mahomes was this unstoppable John Wick character. It doesn't matter what happens. He's got the knockout power. And then we found out the limits. The limits were Mike Remmers. The limits were not having any of the things that make you that you normally provide the base of your success. And I think that we saw that for the first time he's mortal. And I actually think this might end up being good for his career. But to answer your question, 29 pressures happened. And no one can overcome that, not even the best quarterback we've ever seen.
When you say it could be good for his career, explain why.
So, I think that we get into this trap where we think that every other team can go all in all the time, and Mahomes just is the only ingredient needed in Kansas City, and that Reid is the only ingredient needed in Kansas City. And I've talked to Brett Veach about this, the GM, and he basically says that every team now is all in every single year. That's, remember a couple of years ago, Les Snead, the Rams GM, said, oh, the Rams we're going to be like the Warriors, all this stuff. And it was revolutionary at the time. Well, now everybody who competes for a championship, probably 8 teams a year, they're all in. They're maximizing the cap. They're trading for a superstar every single year. I mean, Stephon Diggs with the Bills last year is a good example of that. And so I think that now we know Mahomes' 10-year contract. He still has, the 16th and 18th biggest cap hits the next 3 seasons. So it's not like it goes to some insane number. The Chiefs are going to need to build, and they're going to need they have the base for success, but they're going to need to take some swings. And I think that we learned that last night. And a lot of that is going to be offensive line. We don't know the future of Mitchell Schwartz. We don't know the future of Eric Fisher. Obviously went out 2 weeks ago, and we don't know how long-term that's going to be. Mahomes needs help like everybody else. I think he's the best quarterback I've ever seen, but he's human. That's what we learned.
So let's talk about, I think, the MVP of the game, who obviously didn't get an MVP vote, and that's Todd Bowles. Because we can talk about the Chiefs' offensive line being banged up, and it was, but it's the same offensive line they had against Buffalo, minus Eric Fisher. I know they moved people around, but Mitchell Schwartz been out for 3 months. They've been playing with a lot of these guys throughout the year, and the Chiefs went 38-6 run on Buffalo, and against the Bucks, it looked like Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, running around trying to make a crazy play, totally overmatched. And, I have egg on my face because before the game, I said to Colin, I was like, you're acting like the Bucks front four are the Purple People Eaters. They're really good, but they're not the greatest D-line ever. I still feel that way, even though they played like the greatest D-line ever, which to me is about the scheme. How did Todd Bowles so outmaneuver Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy?
He made adjustments, and he went with a strategy he's never done in his life, which is he blitzed 9% of the time, which is the lowest number on record. And he said, okay, here's what I do. It doesn't matter. Throw it out. Here's what the Chiefs aren't good against. And listen, Todd Bowles did not invent taking away the deep pass, okay? Bunch of teams have done that against Patrick Mahomes. The difference was, first of all, obviously the pressure within the linebackers. And they had fast linebackers who could hang with the Chiefs, and that's what made the difference. Whether that's Levante David hanging on and being okay against Kelsey for 3 quarters, whether that's Devin White being all over the place and taking away screens. I mean, the pressure obviously was the most notable thing. That's where everything flowed through. But the defensive backs played well. The linebackers played well. This team was built for the Chiefs. And I don't think that was intentional. Just sort of, a fast team that could hang with them. And then Todd Bowles knew what to do with him. In the biggest game of his life, Todd Bowles made adjustments. Andy Reid didn't. That is the coaching story of this game.
One more on the Super Bowl, and then I want to move on to some other things. You mentioned Andy Reid didn't make adjustments.
Yeah.
That was shocking to me. I think you're totally right, but it was watching it happen. I don't know what the counterpunch was, and maybe it would have whiffed, but I would have liked to seen it. Like, what did you make of why he didn't and what they could have done?
Okay, so the biggest shock to me for the entire game wasn't the pressure, because I guess if you had told me they get a bunch of pressure against their tackles, I would understand that, okay? The biggest shock to me is that nothing changed throughout the game. I mean, how accustomed are you and I to seeing Patrick Mahomes down 10 points, 14 points, 24-7 if it's against Bill O'Brien, and then he just turns it on, right? It's like seeing Liam Neeson in an action movie. Like, you know what's coming. Here come the fireworks, right? and nothing ever happened because the pressure never got better. And so 92% of the plays the Chiefs ran were in 5-man protection. Now, there's some wiggle room there with the chips and all that stuff, but they didn't ever do a max protect thing or anything like that. And that's not what they like to do. They like to get Travis Kelce out into routes. They like throwing to the back out of the backfield. I understand all that, but I don't care. I don't care at some point. Like, this wasn't about, some people were criticizing Reid for still taking deep shots or whatever. None of it matters if Patrick Mahomes isn't being protected. I was looking at the passing charts this morning. Mahomes was 3 of 7 within 10 yards throwing to the left. Behind the line of scrimmage throwing to the right, he was 3 of 6. This wasn't a play thing. This was a protection thing. So whatever you can do to keep Patrick Mahomes from looking like he's facing a defense that has turned offsides off in Madden, okay, that's what it looked like, or they were doing a jailbreak screen and it was intentional. I don't know what it was. I've never seen anything like it. So if you can get Mahomes out of that scenario, you do it, and Andy Reid just never did it. I don't care it's not what you do. Change what you do, because Todd Bowles did.
All right, so this could be the offseason of unprecedented quarterback movement.
Yes.
We already saw Stafford and Goff, that trade. Wentz might get traded. There are 2 superstars who I don't think are going anywhere, but they seem to be a little nonplussed with their current situations. And that is one of your favorites, Aaron Rodgers, and another one of your favorites, Russell Wilson. By the way, if you don't know Kevin Clark, he likes really good football players. They're mostly all his favorites.
Huge fan.
So you said something that I thought was interesting that applies to, I think, Rodgers and Wilson. You said that Les Snead said every year we're all in. Like, everyone's all in. And that Brett Veach, they're all in. And you look around the league and it's like, oh, the Bucs went all in. They got Brady, they got Gronk, they got AB, they traded up in the draft, they're in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs had Alex Smith, they trade up, we're not satisfied, and they keep push. Seahawks and the Packers seem to be like, no, we're actually not all in. We're just kind of in, even though our quarterbacks are amazing. Do you think that has to do with the frustration of Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, and do you think there could be any movement there?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It has everything to do with it, because the Packers have, since Ted Thompson and before that Ron Wolf, they've tended to be pretty conservative. They take big swings, going back under Ron Wolf to Reggie White. Charles Woodson is a big swing. But year in, year out, they're mostly draft and develop and pick their spots. There are a couple, Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. They'll go out every few years and make those changes. But they're not all in every year like some of these teams, okay? They're not in every – there are teams right now who are in every trade discussion. And if someone's available, they'll make a call. I don't think the Packers and the Seahawks necessarily operate like that. They're a little bit more of long game, keep the window open, all that stuff, okay? And I think that Aaron Rodgers sees when a team goes out and trades for a superstar receiver, and he says, I'd like that on the other side of Devontae Adams, or I'd like some more defensive help to go all in. And I just think that we're in a league now where superstars go for 2 first-round picks. And I'm intrigued to see what new teams make those big swings in the next couple of months to help their quarterback, to help their window. If you're not all in right now, we saw that with the Bucs. Tom Brady happened to join a team that was all in and had Chris Godwin and Levante David and Shaq Barrett in last year of their contracts. This was a stacked roster. I don't think there's a lot of team building lessons from that, because it's going to be really hard for a team to find the next GOAT who's mad at the organization he played for 20 years. It's an extenuating circumstance. But what I would say is that if you don't have a stacked roster, that's the barrier for entry now into the Super Bowl. Good quarterback, stacked roster. Seahawks and Packers don't have it right now.
All right, we got 60 seconds. One last question. Very simple. Who looks worse after Brady wins his 7th Super Bowl? Me for my takes the last 4 years, or Bill Belichick for seemingly agreeing with those takes and telling Tom, we don't need you here anymore?
I think it's Belichick. I know I'd love to roast you here. But you didn't build a team without weapons. You didn't build a team where the highest graded receiver was James White last year. You didn't build a team where over a 2-year period, Nick, Julian Edelman had 11 deep receptions. That was the most in the team. And in 1 year, Mike Evans has 15, including the playoffs. And that Chris Godwin and Rob Gronkowski have 8. I mean, this was, once you saw that Brady still had the arm, you look back on the 29 Patriots and you go, oh, I get this. Oh, I see what was going on here. This was not Brady in decline. This was the Patriots skill guys putting Brady in decline. And that's a huge, huge indictment. Belichick, best team builder of all time, not in 2019.
Kevin Clark from The Ringer. Slow News Day is amazing. The podcasts are amazing. The writing's amazing. Kevin, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Continued success, my friend.
Love coming on with you, Nick.